This is Mafia, where you play as Tommy Angelo, a 1930s cab driver who gets swept up in the lucrative world of being a gangster for the Salieri family. The Godfather, The Sopranos. The Mafia story is right up there with those classics, but because it's a game, it doesn't get the same recognition. I'm here to share this story with you so that you too get to experience one of the greatest Mafia stories ever told. Let's not wait any longer because it's a good one. The year is 1938. I'm meeting with a man named Detective Norman. He assumes I called him here in an effort to get him on my payroll. There's a lot of crooked cops in this world, so it's a pretty normal situation. But the real reason I set this meeting was because I was on the run. Detective Norman was brought in a few years ago and given the Salieri case, but he's had trouble getting information and making arrests. The case was going cold, but I had all the information that he could possibly want, so I thought it'd be a good idea to strike a deal. In exchange for the protection of my family, my wife and 3 daughters, I was looking to give up the Salieri family so that Detective Norman could break the case. I tried to play it cool, but Norman saw right through me. He knew I was on the run and that I was desperate. It showed in my face, the lack of sleep, the looking over my shoulder. I couldn't even walk out of this coffee shop alone without fearing for my life. I needed the protection. But lucky for me, Norman needed this information that I had, so making a deal was the only way. Before all this happened, I was just a regular cab driver, earning an honest living. So I started there, telling Detective Norman where it all began for me. It was quiet and a normal night, until I was approached by 2 guys with guns. I didn't have much choice. They forced me to be their getaway driver. I didn't know who was chasing them, but it wasn't the cops. So if I didn't get shot by these 2, whoever was following us certainly would. I drove like hell and I got these 2 guys to safety. They had me take them to Salieri's bar. I've heard of Don Salieri, but I didn't know anything about that world. One of the guys, Paulie, had me wait outside. He said the Don would give me something as a reward for returning his guys safely. It was a little frightful for a second as I thought I was about to get blasted, but Sam pulled out an envelope full of cash as compensation for my services and to repair my car. He said the Don was very grateful for what I had done.
Any damage to your car? This makes us square.
And that if I ever needed some honest work, that I could come see him. I drove off in my bullet-riddled cab back to my apartment. This wasn't my world. I didn't know it, and I had no intentions of being part of it. But when I opened that envelope and saw enough money in there to not only fix my cab, but just outright buy a new one, it had me thinking a lot about the work they were offering. It was tempting, but I wasn't interested. I didn't want to go and get in with the criminals. Better to be poor and alive than rich and dead. So right there, back then, I was out. I went back to work as a cabbie, but things felt different. As a cabbie, you have a lot of time to think about things, and I had my mind on Salieri. I drove my fares to their destinations. After listening to some of these obnoxious people, I needed a coffee break. And while peacefully enjoying my coffee, I was attacked. 2 goons pulled me out of my cab and started wailing on me. He asked if I remembered him, but I had no idea who they were, until he said I shouldn't go helping Salieri's goons without expecting a response from Morello. Morello is Salieri's rival and currently has a bigger hold on this city. These goons were paying me back for assisting their enemy. I made a run for it. I ran through the alleyways, jumping fences, climbing walls, and just trying not to get shot. I didn't know where else to run, so I made my way back to Salieri's bar. Sam and Paulie were outside and confronted them. Sam stepped in and said that I was Don's favorite driver, so if they wanted a word with me, they could talk to the Don. Surely this backed them off, but they still felt owed something and said they weren't leaving empty-handed, until Paulie made them reconsider. They said the Don was going to want to hear about this incident, so they took me inside to meet Don Salieri for the first time. I met with Don, Frank, who's his consigliere, and Paulie and Sam, who I already knew. The Don asked me about my cab and said he felt a responsibility, so he offered me a loan to fix it up, again. But I wasn't interested in free handouts. I told the Don I wanted revenge on the guys who jumped me. He was surprised and delighted that I had come to ask before causing any more problems. So he gave me a shot at it. He told me about a lot where they parked their cars near one of their popular bars, and he wanted me to spash them up a bit to send a message to Morello, to remind him that he can't just go roughing up hard-working Joes like me in Salieri's neighborhood. I told the Don I wouldn't let him down. I followed Paulie to go see Vincenzo. He's the guy with the weapons. He gave us just what we needed to do some damage, some baseball bats and Molotov cocktails. Then Paulie took me to meet Ralphie. He's the mechanic, and we needed a car. Paulie started opening up a little on the drive there. It felt like he was trying to convince me that this is the best way to live life. He made it sound appealing. The best booze, the best dames, the best food. It all sounded good, except for the getting in trouble part. But all I was focused on for now was getting my revenge on those goons who wrecked my car. So focused, in fact, I ran into a cop. It's a good thing they don't know what we're up to, but I needed to not have cops on my tail right before going to commit a crime. So I paid my ticket and I was on my way. Paulie walked up to distract them while I found a way to sneak in the back. I climbed up some boxes and snuck in the back. I snuck up on the guard at the gate and took him down. I let Paulie in and we had at it with these cars. More of Morello's guys came out and we got into a bit of a brawl. I knocked Dino's face in with a bat. He's the guy who jumped me. It was getting serious, so I busted out the Molotovs and I hurried up and destroyed their cars. Then we stole Dino's car to make our escape. We had to lose the cops before we headed back to Salieri's, but once we did, we made our way. I asked Paulie why we even had to deal with the cops if Salieri had them in his back pocket, but it turns out he only has a few street-level cops. Morello has the police chief in his pocket, so he has greater control of the cops. On the drive back, Paulie continued to tempt me with this way of life, trying to get me to admit how enjoyable that was back there. It did feel good, but I was still a little skeptical of living this way. When we met back with the Don, he was very satisfied. This was another thing to piss off Morello and cause him to be distracted. Paulie vouched for me and gave me a glowing endorsement. The Don was pleased, and he offered me some small-time work, running errands here and there to help pay my bills. I couldn't imagine turning down Don Salieri, so regardless of how I felt, I agreed enthusiastically. Don gave me the simple rules that I need to live by. No cursing, which is odd, but it's about respect. They don't deal in the hard stuff, so no dope, period. And stay away from the cops. They don't have many on their payroll, so if I get caught, I'm on my own. And most importantly, loyalty above all else. If I can follow those rules, the Don promised I'd be living the good life. He welcomed me to the family officially.
Welcome to the family.
Those first days
in the early days, I was still earning my respect. Since I made my way in as a wheelman, the Don continued to have me be the driver. It was collection day. The Don wanted us to make our rounds and handle collections. Frank was there to remind us we provide an important service. We provide protection, and these people need to see us as a saint. So, no busted legs unless absolutely necessary, because at the end of the day, the bill is still due. But Don Salieri is certainly more compassionate than Morello, not wanting to resort to violence unless it's absolutely necessary. I had to deceive Vinny to grab some weapons. This time I got something a little more protective than a bat. He gave me a 6-shooter, and then I headed to Ralphie's to get myself a car. Ralphie showed me how to pick locks, so now I don't have to break a window to steal a car. It's a much less risky way to avoid the cops. Paulie and Sam loaded into the car, and then we went off to our first stop, Al's Bakery. Al was late again on his payment because business has been slow for him. But this time he had it all there, so fortunately for him, we didn't have to rough him up. Sam reminded him of why these payments are so important, and I went back to collect. His ma wasn't too pleased with us, but the money was there, so what did I care? We got back in the car and drove to our next collection. Paulie took care of this one alone while me and Sam held back in the car. Sam says sometimes Paulie builds up too much steam and he needs to let it out, so every now and then he lets him do his own thing. Paulie was definitely letting something out. They didn't have the payment, so Paulie let them have it. He reminded them what happens when they don't pay. We got back in the car and we made our way to the third collection. This time Paulie and Sam went in and I stayed back. There was still some pushback from them. I knew they didn't quite trust me yet. But while waiting, expecting another smooth collections, I heard gunshots. And out came Paulie with a bullet. It was probably Morello's guys, but he told us this place belongs to them now. Paulie told me they had Sam inside and were trying to beat information out of him. I had to go in to get him. I snuck in around back and took out the guards down low. Then I climbed up top and snuck my way inside, going from room to room looking for Sam and slowly taking out the guards. One of the guards spotted me through the window.
I'll open you up. See.
I took care of him, but the rest were now alerted. I blasted my way in and through to find Sam. I took out all the goons and found him. He was hurt, but he was alright. One last goon got away with the money, so I went after him. And that was a defining moment for me.
When I saw the cost, what it meant to be on the inside. I should have took off there and then. But I couldn't go back to being a nobody.
Back in present day, I continued to tell Detective Norman about those early days. Back when Salieri didn't have the run of the town and it was still Morello's town. Morello was much more brutal than Don Salieri. He even took out his own prized boxer over a minor traffic incident. He was a loose cannon, but for us, We didn't have any more run-ins with Morello's crew in those early days. For the first couple years, it was pretty quiet. We got into a few dust-ups here and there, but otherwise the usual routine. Running booze, offering protection, and doing the rounds to collect. Small-time stuff. Don Salieri came to me with a job. There was a big race coming up and the Don wanted me to ensure his guy gets the victory. His racer is the man to beat, or at least was. But with some new hotshot European coming into town, the Don fears it might threaten his sure-to-win racer. The Don has guaranteed this win to a lot of people, and if he loses, there will be huge blowback. So Don Salieri needs to make sure that his guy wins. But we can't just take him out. If he doesn't do the race, the bets are off, so I had to fix his car. I grabbed one of my cars from the garage and headed to the racetrack. I met our contact at the garage where they keep the car, but I needed to take it to a different garage to do what we needed to be done. So under the cover of night, I had to race to Lucas's garage, making sure not to draw attention of the cops. And I had to hurry because we had to get this done before the next shift at the track. Lucas did his work and I raced back, but the car was all jacked up. It was very difficult to steer. If I can get this back, it's definitely going to be a problem in the race tomorrow. I parked her back in the garage and no one was the wiser. On race day, Frank gave me some bad news. The boss's prize driver, Mikey Dunn, wasn't going to be able to race. Apparently, Morello was feeling threatened by Salieri's driver too, but instead of tampering with the car, he just went out and beat the crap out of Mikey. Broke his arm, broke his jaw, sent him to the hospital. Frank told me I was going to be filling in, and there was no discussion. It's 30 minutes before race time, and I am the best wheelman. It's why they brought me on, so I got ready for the race.
Out. Replacing him is, Tommy Angelo. Well, I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing him good luck.
The gun went off, and I floored it. Lichtenberg, the European's car, went off the track immediately, and my biggest competition was already out of the race. It was 3 laps, but it didn't take me long to gain position.
What? A bitch. Ah, crap. Tommy Angelo takes the lead.
By the end of the first lap, I had the lead, and it was growing. I just needed to make sure not to crash. I maintained my lead, and I came away with the victory. After the race, everyone was pleased. The Don was happy about winning because he knew Morello would be pissed. He told me to take my lady out with my winnings, but I don't have one. I do, however, have a keen eye on Sarah. Sarah is Luigi's daughter. He's the one who cooks for everyone, and she's been part of the family since she was born. We got to talking a bit, but was cut short because I had to go find an overly drunk Paulie before he had done something stupid. I found him half passed out in some garbage and helped him home. Paulie was a little emotional on the drive. I can tell he's stressed. It seems this life is kind of getting to him, but he clearly hides it behind his toughness. It's only the alcohol that brings his guard down. I got him home safely though, and he made it inside. Luigi asked me a favor. There have been some punks bothering Sarah. He says she's tough and not afraid to speak her mind, but he's concerned that she might say something that sets them off. So he was wondering if I could walk her home. He just wanted them to be reminded that she's the Don's goddaughter. She told me she didn't need me walking her home, but I could tell that she didn't mind the company at least. We got to talking and there were some sparks. I asked her out on a real date sometime and she thought it'd be nice. Those thugs caught up with us and wanted to get into it, just like Luigi said they would. I got into a brawl with them to protect Sarah. I made use of this lead pipe to show these goons what's up. There was a lot of them, but I took care of business. I was bleeding a bit, but nothing too serious. Sarah, though, wanted me to come up so that she could have a look. She fixed me up, and we cozied up together on the couch. The next day, the Don had some words about what happened with Sarah. She's like a daughter to him, so even though I roughed those guys up, the Don wanted to teach them a bigger lesson. But more importantly, he said if he can't even protect his own people, who's going to pay up for our protective services? This is a problem, so we had to deal with it. I met up with Vinny to get some equipment, then grabbed a car and headed to Chinatown with Paulie and Sam. We talked to one of our guys, Biff, and he pointed us where we could find Morello's guys hanging around. No sneaking around this time. We walked up to the front gate and let them know we were here. They started running and we chased them. We were just intending on breaking some bones, but when the shooting started, I busted out my heater and things got serious. We chased them out back and tried getting away in a car, so we followed. They crashed, and we finally caught up with them. Paulie wanted me to finish them off, but I couldn't do it.
I want a poppy. No, wait. Please, I don't want to. die, man.
Christ, Tom. You can't feel sorry for these animals. A guy like this would plug you if you give him the chance. You gotta pull the trigger without thinking. Guess I'm out. This one's finished too. Oh, Christ, Tom. Snap out of it. You remember what those guys wanted to do to Sarah?
Yeah. Just,
Hey. Let's get out of here before the bulls show up, huh?
A couple days later, we found out some bad news. That guy Paulie clipped was the city councilor's son. Salieri fears it'll make him run to Morello's arms for protection. But it gets worse. The other guy in the crash, who we thought was dead, survived.
you made it? Yes.
This was a problem because we could not have him identify us. If they find out Salieri's guys are responsible, it's going to be a big problem for the Don. We didn't know if he even got a good look at us, but we had to take him out. The Don had another task for us. We were going to take care of two birds with one stone. The brothel that Don Salieri has invested a lot of money in over the years has decided to do business with Morello. So he decided to blow up the place. He said if Morello was going to take businesses away from him, then he's going to be inheriting a crater. But the blast from the explosion should give Sam enough cover to take out the guy who survived at the funeral, which will be happening next door. The Don wouldn't normally have me step up in doing something this big, but I'm the only one who can get in the brothel without being recognized. Frank informed me that one of the girls was passing information along, so I needed to take her out too. Sam seemed a little concerned about that, but it's what the Don wanted. I met up with Vinny to get my explosives, then got in the car with Sam. But before we left, he had something to say about the girl I was supposed to kill.
Right. You don't have to rub her out. Just make her disappear.
You know her?
Yeah. I've been with her a few times. She's a good egg, Tom. Just maybe not so bright. She doesn't deserve to get plugged just because she likes listening to me talk.
You think she'll leave town?
When she understands what'll happen otherwise, yeah, she'll leave. Here's 100. Give it to her. And make sure she gets far away.
Okay, Sam. I'll see what I can do.
That's all I'm asking. Let's go.
I dropped Sam off at the church and went to the brothel. I walked around looking for Michelle and the manager, but the place was loaded with Morello's guys, and they didn't take too kindly to me being there. Bullets started flying. I found and then took out the manager first, and then I shot my way through the lobby and up the stairs, searching floor after floor for the girl. I found a note saying, Michelle, room 208, so I went there to confront her. I told her about Sam and I got her to confess. She was just gossiping with the girls. Turns out she's not actually trying to pass information along. I made sure to let her know she needs to keep her mouth shut. But also, if she ever shows her face around here, she's dead. I gave her the money and I let her go. I made my way to the manager's office to plant the explosives. I escaped on the rooftops from Morello's guys and the cops and made my way into the church, where there was no sign of Sam. The guy that we were supposed to take out was giving a speech. But when I opened the door, they heard me and then they saw me and he called me out. I had to chase this guy down and finish them off myself. I took him down, but he wasn't dead. While the priest was trying to talk me down, this Johnny guy got up, but Sam finally showed up and he finished him off. We paid off the priest to make sure he keeps his mouth shut, and then me and Sam escaped in a hearse and made it back to Salieri safely. Back in present day, talking with the detective, I told him all about the church. He said that was some pretty serious stuff and he could take me right there and lock me up for life. But I told him that's not even the hard stuff. And if he did, he wouldn't learn anything about Morello. He ordered some lunch and a whole pot of coffee because we were going to be there a while. He wanted to know what kind of heat I got from the day at the church, but it wasn't much. We think the Don paid some people off, but all we had to do was lay low for 7 to 8 months. However, during that time, Morello slowly crept in on our territory. We didn't think nothing of it because we were still making good money. And then there was Sarah. I had my eyes on her, and I didn't think twice about anything else. Life was good then, until Frank set us all straight.
He set me straight. He set us all straight.
Frank had some words for me after having a night out being a little too flashy with our dough. He was looking out for me and the family, but it was pretty harsh. It was definitely tough love. He told the story about how we met the Don. It was about his dog and how brutal the Don was when something was of no use to him. He wanted me to know that Don Salieri wouldn't hesitate to cast me aside if I can't be useful to the family. But he also reminded me that I have potential, and if I play it right, I could run this town one day. I met up with Frank again. We had a new assignment. There was a big shipment of Canadian booze coming in, and Frank asked me to look after Paulie and Sam and make sure everything goes smoothly. I got myself a car from Ralphie, then drove to Salieri's warehouse to meet up with Paulie and Sam. When we got to the drop, Sam was missing. Paulie gave him a couple honks, thinking he might have just went off to take a piss. We got out to check and brought some heat with us just in case. I ran around the place looking for clues, but nothing turned up. I spotted a guy in his truck but went over, and when he fell out dead, I was ambushed by some goons.
Drop your weapon. You first. We don't have time for this. Sorry, pal. Guess we're doing this the hard way. Okay, then.
Once I finished them off, Paulie met back up with me, but I still couldn't find Sam. Those guys who ambushed us were cops. Looks like they were in Morello's pocket, trying to take our score. I found a note later, too, that confirmed this, but we continued looking for Sam. We heard gunfire in the distance and found Sam held up in a barn defending himself. We pushed forward, trying to take out Sam's attackers. By the time we got up there, Sam was clipped. Paulie ran to the truck, stayed behind defending Sam. We got in the truck, but the cops were on our tail, and they had an armored vehicle with them. I had to take them out with my Tommy gun. We lost the cops, and we were able to make it to the doctor's house. Paulie stayed with Sam, and I took the booze back to Salieri's. Things did not go as planned, and I was pretty concerned for Sam, not to mention killing those cops. I went to see Sarah for comfort. She knew something was wrong, but she understood. This was the one. I asked her to marry me.
Marry me.
I met with Don Salieri at the park. Just me and him. A highly unusual meeting. But he told me right away, we have a mole. The Don was looking into things deeper, and the accounting books were missing. Since Frank is responsible and all the money goes through him, the Don suspects Frank has turned his back on him. He can't get a hold of him or find him anywhere. The Don is pretty tore up too. Frank is one of his oldest friends. He said that everything he has, Frank was always there by his side. He doesn't know why he'd be doing this, but he's confident that it's him. Just like Frank was telling me before, you're family until you're not. The Don wanted me to track down Frank and make him give up the books. And if he doesn't have them, the Don told me to do what I needed to do to get them back. Vinny got me set up with a new car and a Lupara. First, I went to Biff's to see if I could get some information. He had a tip that the FBI was in town here to get something from Morello, but he didn't know what. Little Tony overheard what that might be, so I had to go pay him a visit next. One of the guards for whatever it is that the FBI is here for got a little drunk and started spilling some info. So, Little Tony overheard some things. Some kind of deal was being brokered between Morello and the FBI by the counselor Galati. Galati is the one whose son got capped by Paulie. But this was some pretty big news, so I asked Little Tony why he didn't say anything, and he said he did, but he told Frank, and Frank didn't say anything, which can only mean one thing. Frank really is the mole. I drove to Frank's house to see if I could find him, and he was there with an FBI escort. I tailed them. They were heading to the airport. It was blocked off, so I had to sneak my way in. I snuck around, looking for clues that might lead me to Frank. I found a note with some information pointing me to his location. The guards caught on, so I had to shoot my way to the hangar before Frank got away. I caught up with him, and I confronted him. Frank told me Morello finally caught up with him and his family. It was a simple trade. Frank and his family get to keep their lives and tickets out of this town if he gives up the Don's accounting books. With his back against the wall, Frank had no choice. But he played it smart. He hadn't given up the books yet. He was supposed to be on that plane before Morello got the key to access the books. Frank gave that key to me, and the guys who were supposed to go grab those books, well, I just dusted them. I told his wife and daughter to get on board while I had my final words with Frank. I asked why he didn't just come to us for help. He said he was tired of this life. He wanted out, one way or another. The Don told me to take care of Frank, but I just couldn't do it. Because I understood, I let Frank go. I had to do the bank with the safety deposit box, and I went to get the accounting books.
I got the books and covered my tracks. Salieri never asked any questions. In fact, apart from the funeral, I never heard him talk about Frank again.
Me and the Don took a drive through the suburbs. Morello's got a dirty prosecutor on his payroll named Watkins, an old friend of Councilman Galati. Morello let drop that we might have had something to do with Galati's boy's death. Now Watkins is going hard after it, trying to find out the truth, and apparently he's getting lucky with some witnesses. Paulie and Sam are taking care of the witnesses, but the Don needs me to find out whatever Watkins has on us so far. He's got the info held up in a safe in his house. The Don set me up with Salvatore. He's fresh off the boat from Italy. This guy can break into any safe, so he's coming with me. We got into the car and made our way to Watkins' house. When we got there, I had to sneak my way in past the guards, taking them out one by one, making sure not to set off the alarm. We broke in and searched the mansion, checking each painting for that hidden safe. Once we found it, Salvatore got to work. But we had unexpected company. I got anxious and set off the alarm before Salvatore could finish his work. Now we had to shoot our way out. We took out the guards but had to escape the cops before we could make it back to Salieri's. Once we were free, I brought Salvatore back, and it was a job well done. Salieri was pleased with how we were doing, but the money was drying up a bit. We had to resort to all measures to make sure we kept the money flowing. That included selling off his last stash of the Canadian booze, but the boss was looking for some more scores and open to new ideas. Paulie had been working on an angle. He's got some bootleggers working for Morello, but aren't too happy with their arrangements and are looking to roll over to our side. All we needed to do was stage a heist. Sam was skeptical, but the Don was okay with it, considering we were in a bit of a desperate situation for new jobs. We got to the meetup in the parking garage with Gates. The whiskey was good, and Paulie gave Gates a broken nose, just to make sure it looked like a robbery. But that didn't matter. We were ambushed. Gates was shot, but he was fine. We could still continue the job. We just needed to get the booze out of here. The parking garage was filled with Morello's guys, going down each level, taking out his goons one by one while we escorted the truck. When we got down to the exit, I grabbed some wheels and I watched Sam's back, and I escorted them back to Salieri's. Gates getting shot only helped our cause. It gave him and his crew another reason to dump Morello out of the whiskey business. The hooch was good, and the Don was happy.
Excellent. I'll work out the details with Papa Gates. But once we're running this Kentucky Brown, we'll be back in brass buttons. Good work, son. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of all of you. Saludo! Saludo!
Back with Detective Norman, we talked about how that score was just about to set us up big. But then, Prohibition hit. All that fighting over booze meant next to nothing. I told them it took us a few years to recover, but we eventually did. We invested that booze money into some new rackets: construction, restaurants, trucking, gambling. We branched out into everything except peddling dope. By 35, things were looking up. We had good money rolling in on the regular. I had a wife and daughter. Sam was running a club for the Don. Even Paulie had a few rackets of his own. Salieri was making gains on Morello, but Morello never really did anything about it. That is, until he learned that Salieri was trying to build a bench of his own and get judges under his payroll. That's when Morello hit us hard. The Don's driver, Carlo, called in sick, so I filled in and I took him to lunch. We barely got into our first course before we were ambushed by Morello's guys. They came heavy. We couldn't make it out the front door. The Don kept them busy from the front while I snuck out the back to ambush them. I cleared the front and I got the Don out of there before the cops showed up. I tried to get the Don back to the bar, but he wanted to pay a visit to Carlo. He was the only one who knew where we were going that day, and he called in sick. He set the Don up. I drove to Carlo's apartment to confront him. The Don started laying into him, but Carlo took off running. I chased him down the fire escape and through the alleys. He was begging, just like Frank. He said Morello's guys were threatening his family. He said he had no choice. But when the Don caught up to him, it didn't matter. The Don was pissed because Morello has never come after him this hard before. When Morello found out that Salieri was still alive, he was not too happy about it. Things were heating up. It was about to be an all-out war. Morello had his guys on high alert, and he told his brother Sergio to keep his head down. And all Salieri's guys knew something big was coming too. You don't go after the Don himself unless you expect an all-out war afterwards. I met back with the Don to go over our next move. But before we could hit him big, we had to soften him up. Morello has too many cops, politicians, and even judges in his pocket. We can't buy them off, but we can scare them off into abandoning Morello's sinking ship. Galati is the first in line, the same politician who's been giving us problems since '32. If we take him out, others will see Morello can't protect them, and that'll give us room to make a big move. Galati was having a big celebration for his birthday on a boat, and it was the perfect opportunity to take him out. I met up with Paulie and Sam at the docks to work out my escape plan. I needed to get on the boat first, though. There was going to be tight security, so I'd have to sneak my way in. Sam knocked out a sailor in the bathroom, and I went and grabbed his uniform. Then I headed towards the boat. Sam let me know Paulie had stolen a speedboat and would be there to pick me up when it's done. I boarded the boat, but with tight security, I couldn't bring a weapon on board. I had to find our contact, who's the janitor there. He stashed a gun somewhere on board. But I ran into some goon who recognized me. I had to take him out before I got made. Once I took care of him, I found the gun, and I made my way to the vantage point. All I needed to do was wait for the fireworks. I hit my mark, and then I had to escape. The Don continued his retaliation. He sent Sam and Vinny after Sergio, Morello's brother, but this guy has some legendary luck and he slipped away. The Don asked me to go after him to see if I had better luck. Sergio is their top earner. He controls everything, and if we take him out, it'll be a huge hit to Morello's income. Vinny gave me a car bomb, and I told the Don I'd take care of it. I had to stay quiet, make sure not to look suspicious and alert the neighborhood. I snuck around back and I planted the bomb, and then I waited across the street to watch the action. But things did not go as planned.
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, Christ. Hey! Stop!
I spoke with Vinny, and he told me Sam and Paulie found out where he's at. I raced over there to meet up with them. Sergio's luck was finally running out. He escaped the diner, but I was in pursuit. I chased him to the train yard, and I faced down a whole bunch of Morello's guys before finally catching up to Sergio.
What did I tell you? No one can touch me.
You ain't that lucky, bastard.
Wait. No!
After we killed Sergio, it was chaos for weeks. Our guys against their guys, and Morello's gone to the ground, but a boss can't stay hidden forever. For a Don to be feared, he's got to be seen. Finally, word came through that he was going to break cover. The plan was to take out Morello in public, just like Galati, right in front of all the city's elites. We geared up with Tommies and prepared for the big one. When we got to the theater, he must have been tipped off. He was already on the run. We chased him down in his car. He made a run for the airstrip. He was trying to escape on plane. We pushed up, and just as we caught up to him, his plane was about to take off. I hopped in the car and had to take out the plane's engines before it could get off the ground. We followed the damaged plane to its crash site. I was expecting to see Morello escaping with his life once again, but there he was, half dead already.
Jesus Christ. Bastard's daddy doesn't even know it yet.
He knows it now.
Yeah, pal. That'll do it.
Back in present day with Detective Norman, he was surprised to hear it was me who finished off Morello. He said he'd been chasing me for 3 years, but had no idea who he was chasing. He said he wanted to lock me up right there, but I once again reminded him, he's here to get the guy handing the tickets out, not the ones punching them. I told him I could get him Salieri. I had the books, the ones that Frank had, and it would be enough to put Salieri behind bars for life, but only in exchange for the protection of my family. I told Norman that things quieted down after Morello's death. Salieri felt like he ran the town, but I was just happy the war was over. But that life started to get to me. Waking up every day, wondering how all that money, it couldn't even protect Morello from some lowly cabbie like myself. How was I ever going to be safe? I was constantly wondering what people were whispering behind my back and if anybody was going to ever betray me.
Wondering if your best friend is hungry enough to betray you.
Things have been pretty smooth for Salieri, but when a new up-and-coming politician is threatening the business, something needs to be done. The Don knew this guy couldn't be bought, so there was only one solution. He wanted me to make an example out of him and remind people who runs this town. I talked to Vinny about getting set up with a weapon. He had little Tony hide the rifle at the prison nearby. I had to get to the prison and get to the guard tower to find it. When I got there, I went in the back. I followed the secret entrance marked by these symbols. This place is run by the prisoners, so I had to fight my way to my destination. But I got to the tower and I found the rifle just in time. I took the shot and then I made a run for it. But I dropped down from the tower and I was knocked out. When I got up, the cops were surely going to be on me. I had to escape the prison in a hurry, but I had no choice. I had to take out these cops who were trying to stop me. I hopped in my getaway car and I made a run for it. The next day, Sarah was reading about this Turnbull guy that I just took out in the papers. Sarah never asks questions, but she knows what I do. She urged me not to go doing something that I don't want to be remembered for.
Tom, don't do nothing you don't want to be remembered for, you hear me?
Probably too late for that.
The Don wanted us to boost a shipment of cigars coming in. It seemed small time, so I questioned him. He said that was just the way it's supposed to look. The real heist is what's inside them, diamonds. But stealing diamonds from the feds was serious business. We ain't never done nothing this big before. But as long as no one catches on to what's really inside, we should be safe. I expressed my concern to Paulie and Sam. They were also skeptical, but it's what the boss wants, so we do the job. We got in the car and headed toward the docks. Paulie was pretty anxious on the way there. He had a lot on his mind. We all did. He was going on about some big plans that he's got. He's looking at pulling a bank robbery. He said he's been planning it for months. He just needs a couple of guys that he can trust. But going behind the Don's back and doing this job without his permission is a death ticket. Paulie agrees and says we would cut him in after the score. He won't be mad once he gets his share, Paulie thinks. Sam is out for sure. He says he'll at least keep this quiet out of respect for Paulie, but there's no way he would go behind the Don's back on this one. I agree, and I tell Paulie to bring it to the Don or let it go. Paulie agreed. We got to the harbor. I let Sam and Paulie off to get the custom workers' uniforms while I went to steal a customs truck. We only had 2 suits, so I had to ride him back. We were expecting it to be mostly empty, but there were workers everywhere. Paulie and Sam got pulled away from someone thinking that they were workers, so it was up to me to sneak in and find the crates with cigars. I snuck around looking for clues as to where they might be. Once I found their location, I snuck my way in, making sure not to set off any alarms. These were feds we're dealing with, so there's no shooting my way out of this one. The warehouse was huge, but I eventually found my way to the crates I needed. Just as we were about to make a break for it, they caught on to us. The alarm was off, but we already had the goods. We just had to book it and run from the cops. We brought the goods back to Salieri's. The crates were pretty shot up, but we made it back alive. We checked the goods to make sure that they weren't completely destroyed, and we uncovered something to our surprise. It was dope. The Don's been lying to us. There are no diamonds. But we had to keep this quiet for now. We had to pretend like we didn't know until we could figure something out. If the Don wanted us to know, he would have told us, Sam said. So we played it cool. When Sam and the Don left, Paulie was outraged. I wasn't too happy either. He brought up the bank job again, and now it was sounding a lot more appealing to me because I didn't know what to do with this dope situation. We took a walk, and he told me about the plan. I was considering it because I wasn't about to move dope for the Don, especially when he's not even cutting us in. This life was getting to me too. I was still thinking about Sergio's wife, who just happened to get in the way of that car bomb. But my biggest concern was getting pinched. If I go to jail, Sarah's done with me. Paulie and I continue to discuss the plan and debate whether or not we should go through with it. He's in the same situation as me. He's burnt out.
Sure.
This life has taken its toll on him, and he doesn't think he can keep going. This would be his ticket out, he says. And now that the Don is dealing in dope, it's only a matter of time before something worse happens. Not to mention, the Don isn't cutting us in, so we need this score. I left Paulie with a lot of intrigue. This might be my only option at this point. The day came, and we had no choice. With our backs against the wall, we decided we were doing the robbery. Paulie handles the crowd, while I go after the vault. Security is minimum, and I should be able to get down, in and out, no problems. We busted in. Paulie controlled the crowd, and I went in after the manager. I got him down to the vault, and I told security to drop their weapons, but they had other ideas. I got into the vault, and I got the money, but the cops got here faster than expected. We had to shoot our way out and make a run from the cops. When we got back to safety, Paulie was excited. I was just relieved not to be dead. I left the money with him and was going to return in the morning to split up the dough.
See you around, pal.
I mentioned to Sarah that we should take a trip, but she was wise to it. Me and Paulie come across a bunch of money and now we want to leave town? I was concerned about what was next, and she could tell, but I didn't know what to expect. I got in my car and I drove to Paulie's to split up our score. I got to Paulie's and I knew something was wrong when his door was cracked. I opened the door and there he was, dead, with a bullet in his head. Sam called while I was there. He said he was calling to warn him. The Don found out about the bank job. Sam said I'm in deep and I need to disappear. But with the money gone, I had nothing. I asked Sam to spot me some cash so that I could get out of town. He said of course, it's the least he could do. I just had to meet him at the gallery. But when I got there, Sam was waiting.
Don't move, Tommy.
Shit.
Hey, Tom. Sam. What the hell's going on?
You and Polly put me in a bad spot.
I know, Sam, and I'm sorry about that, but I need to get out of town. Can you help me or not?
There you go again. Making me choose between my friends and the family. This is what you were looking for, Polly's. Here's your cut. It's more than you deserve.
Sam. You killed him. You killed Paulie.
No. Paulie got himself killed.
And you seem real tore up about it.
I'm just in a good mood. Things are right between me and the Don. I'm moving up, and I just found this big bag of money. The Don knows about Frank, Tom. The whore, too.
That whore? The girl you were sweet on?
You're the one that let her live. I'm sorry about this, Tom. But our business has rules. Shame, too. Don Salieri really liked you. Guess we'll both have a good cry at your funeral.
You think you're doing this because you're loyal. But you're not. You're just scared.
Maybe. But you would have lived a lot longer if you would have just looked over your shoulder from time to time. Goodbye. Don't let him suffer, boys. He's my buddy.
It was on. I had to hunt down Sam. Face down all of Salieri's goons. Most of them I knew for many years, but it's life or death. Them or me. I fought my way all the way to Sam until I finally confronted him.
Nobody's carrying you to the doctor this time, Sam.
You kill me now and the Don. She's never gonna stop looking for you. But you let me live. I'll tell Salieri you're dead. You can disappear. Just like Frank. Only you'll be smart enough to stay gone. Right?
What happened to him?
He was hiding out in Europe. What a dumb bastard. He started betting at the dog track. Got spotted by a friend of the family. So Salieri, he sent out a crew.
And his family? Christ.
You can't do it, can you? Always that little voice in the back of your head. Maybe sounds like your baby girl. Or Sarah. Always telling you not to pull that trigger. And you can't make up your mind.
It's getting easier every time you open your fucking mouth.
We sure had some laughs, right? Remember that time? Me, you, and Polly.
Help your family.
Now that Detective Norman had the full story, he said he felt bad for me, and he wanted to help me, but he had concerns. First, he said I'd have to testify. I'd have to sit down in court in front of everyone. Salieri, Sarah, everyone. I told him I could do whatever needs to be done to protect my family. But also, it's a long process, and Norman didn't think he'd be able to keep me alive for the entire time. Salieri would surely come after me, but in his heart, he knew it was the right thing to do, so he said he would do it. But if it comes down to my life or his, he won't hesitate to save his own. And I didn't have much of a choice. I made a deal with Detective Norman.
Then that has to be enough. A long time ago, in another life, someone once told me that family is a man's Achilles heel, his greatest weakness. Maybe he was right. Because everything I've done, both good and bad, I've done for my family. I've turned my back on people I thought were my friends. I've kept a lot of hard promises. I spent 8 years totally alone, trying to find myself so I could come home. A better husband. A better father. A better man. Now that I'm a lot older and just a bit wiser, I see that family is our greatest weakness, but it's also our greatest strength. It gets us out of bed in the morning. It lets us chase our dreams, even when they're moving too fast to catch. It keeps us from falling over when we're too tired to take another step.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Mr. Salieri sends his regards.
safe now. We're all safe. Remember that money, jobs, even best pals will come and go. But family is forever.